Yeah.
Dante's Boxing Nation, Dante's Cooking Nation. We are out here. Where are we at?
We're out here in Bangkok.
There you go. You hear that? I just made her a proud citizen of Long Beach, California. You heard the accent right there.
Ireland.
She's from Ireland. Matter of fact, introduce yourself to the world.
My name's Hannah and I'm from Ireland and I'm the biggest fan of culture.
You hear that?
Yeah.
Biggest fan?
I'm from Ireland. Sorry.
No, I can edit it. Don't worry about it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I want you to say I'm the biggest fan of his boxing channel too. Say that.
I'm the biggest fan of his boxing channel too. Like it's the best thing I've ever seen.
Thank you. So you've been watching the videos and everything?
Every day.
All the way in Bangkok, Thailand, y'all.
No,
I'm gonna get
in
it right.
Ireland as well.
In Ireland, you hear that? DBN is international,
My
guys.
churros are ready now.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Day by day, more and more truth is starting to come out. Oscar De La Hoya, who just recently said that if he was promoting Canelo Alvarez, he would have kept Canelo Alvarez away from Dimitri Bivol. Now, keep in mind, Oscar had already said leading up to this fight that he thought the Jamal Charlo fight would even be a tougher fight for Canelo than the Bivol fight. That means he doesn't believe that Canelo Alvarez can beat either one of them. Now, Oscar De La Hoya, he comes out and he says that the best fighter at 168 is not Canelo Alvarez, but David Benavidez, which completely makes logical sense. I've been telling you guys since Canelo Alvarez became undisputed at 168. Becoming undisputed doesn't mean a whole lot if you haven't beat the best fighters and the most dangerous fighters in your division. When Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford face off for undisputed at the end of this year, it's going to be the best fighting against the best. Even when Jamal Charlo fought Castaño for undisputed, it was the best versus the best. And understand this as well. It would be different if Canelo Alvarez, he was avoiding one dangerous opponent just to fight the other dangerous guy. You know, like instead of fighting Charlo, he fights Demetrius Andrade or vice versa. Or instead of fighting David Morrell, he fights David Benavidez. If Canelo would have been beating champions or fighters like this, then he would have an argument that he is possibly the best fighter at 168, or even when he was fighting at 160, the best fighter at 160. But instead of Canelo Alvarez fighting some of those names that I mentioned, he fought none of them. David was always the most dangerous, the best fighter at 168. But now you have two fighters at 168 that are extremely dangerous, and you could say both of them are the best right now. And that is David Morrell alongside of David Benavidez. I'm telling you guys right now, the days of Canelo Alvarez telling people that he's the best, etc., or even old media telling people that Canelo Alvarez is the best or is still the best, those days are over with. Sure, they can sit over here and still say, I don't care what anyone says. I don't care how many times Canelo loses. I'm still going to put him down as number one. Sure, you can do it, but anyone that does that loses all credibility. Do you guys notice outside of some professional boxers and maybe some trainers that do interviews, not too many people when it comes to old media or even Canelo Alvarez fans, not too many of them are saying they want to see Canelo versus Benavidez, Canelo versus Morrell, Canelo versus Jamal Charlo. You notice that? They will say, oh, well, you know, Canelo's still the best, but at the same time, they never say they want Canelo Alvarez to fight the best guys at 168 because they're trying to have it both ways. David Benavidez is Canelo Alvarez's mandatory at 168, which puts Canelo Alvarez in almost just as bad as a situation as he was in when the only two fight deals he had on the table was either to fight Bivol next or Jamal Charlo next. Now Canelo, he has a new dilemma, which is either fight Bivol in a rematch, which is another fight that Canelo Alvarez will lose if the judges don't bail him out, Or Canelo Alvarez, he can just acknowledge that Bivol is just better than him and he will never be on Bivol's level, and he could take on the 40-year-old Gennady Golovkin. Now, while that's a much easier fight, obviously, than a Dimitri Bivol fight, let's say Canelo gets past Golovkin. Where does he go from there? Because, once again, if he were to get past Golovkin, he still has David Benavidez problems. He still has David Morrell problems, Jamal Charlo problems. So where's Canelo going to go from there? He's not going to go back to 175. He's definitely not trying to fight the winner of Beterbiev and Smith, right? So what does Canelo do from there? Does he create another Canelo division and fight at 170 against who he wants? I mean, Canelo, he could do it. He can try. But now, since he just came off of a loss and got exposed, and he never avenged that loss, him fighting against soft competition will just make his career look a lot more irrelevant. No one will take him serious anymore, at least in terms of placing him on a pound-for-pound list. He'll just be a fighter just making a payday. Historically and traditionally, when fighters start to lose fights that they weren't supposed to lose, this is usually when they step up in competition, because then they feel they really have nothing else to lose. Because they're no longer being praised as pound for pound the best fighter in the world. They're no longer being compared to Floyd Mayweather or Muhammad Ali or whoever. Now they're just looked at as an overrated fighter. So what happens is a lot of fighters that are in that situation, they are desperate and determined to prove to fans, I'm not overrated. And that's once again when usually these type of fighters, they start taking on challenges we would have never expected them to take. And the majority of times, fighters that do make this decision to start taking on tough challenges because they feel they have nothing to lose, they end up taking more L's. They end up suffering more losses because they're taking on the toughest competition. So we'll see if Canelo Alvarez is built like this. So we'll see if Canelo Alvarez is built like that to come back and start taking on the toughest competition. Or will he just say, you know what, I'm just going to cruise. I'm going to take on some easy competition, make a couple more paydays, and then go ahead and retire. It's very possible that Canelo Alvarez may do something like that. Because after watching David Benavidez's last performance, there's no way I could see Canelo Alvarez getting in the ring with David Benavidez. Canelo Alvarez is the same height as David Lemieux, if not shorter than David Lemieux. He's one-dimensional just like David, lacks defense, gets frustrated very easily, and tires when fighters start walking through his punches and they're not being affected. This is when Canelo Alvarez mentally fatigues. And if Canelo tires out the way he did against Bivol, if he were to do that against David Benavidez, he's going to get knocked out. So Canelo's got a lot of thinking to do when it comes to his future in the sport of boxing. But when it comes to David Benavidez, even though he's most likely not going to get a Canelo Alvarez fight, and he might not even get the Jamal Charlo fight, at least not this year, he still does have the David Morrell fight, which his promoter even said that that is one of the possibilities. I think that fight will most likely happen, and that's going to be a huge fight. That will be the biggest fight at 168. You got the best fighting against the best. So hopefully that's the fight that happens if, once again, David, he can't get a Canelo or can't get a Charlo to move up to 168. But that's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
My name is Chris, and I'm all the way here from Anchorage, Alaska at Scalp, Carolinas, and I'm here for my second treatment of SMP. Well, I was sitting at home one day and going over my Facebook page, and they have different, like advertisements popping up, and I saw one for SMP, and I saw some pictures of some guys, a before and after, and I was looking at that, and it caught my attention, so I Googled it. S&P. Nothing showed up in my area. So, you know, I did a little more research, and all of a sudden, Scalp Carolinas popped up in the web browser. So I started watching his videos and seeing all the reaction from all the other people. We talked on the phone, we made appointments and everything. I sent him pictures, and he looked at them, and I was like, can you fix this? And you know, he pretty much said, no problem. My first session, he made me feel extremely comfortable. It was almost like I was talking to family. He started, and during the whole treatment, we talked, and you know, about our families and our life, and you know, and things that he does and things that I do. And before I know it, the first session was over. When you see someone doing something that they love, as much as I see Enoch Glover love what he does, it shows in his work. I wouldn't point anyone in any other direction but here to North Carolina, Scalp Carolinas, to get this done.
All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Diki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.